And by Dr. Mcebisi, rather, apologies. I always call him Mcebisi. It sounds very close to Mcebisi. Close, I'm sure you get it every day.
My older brother is called Mcebisi.
So I'm not too far off.
Mistake.
Doc, speak to us. We spoke about, as we're doing our crossings to our regions, you mentioned something to me now that you expect a lower turnout at these elections, or projections so far expect something of a lower turnout from the previous elections.
Yeah, I was listening also to Zaid Kamit yesterday, or early this morning from CSIR, saying it might stay around 72, less than 73% of turnout, which would be a massive drop from 77. And I also did mention that in Limpopo the turnout was quite low, around 60 or so, or is projected to be quite slow, around 60 or so, which is bad especially for the ruling party. See, the whole thing about turnout is that ultimately any party has to make sure that its constituency ultimately turns out. If your supporters don't turn out and other people's supporters turn out, that obviously has a massive impact on your overall support. Yeah, so it's still early days, but projections. He also made what I found to be a startling projection. I mentioned it to you. You looked similarly startled as well, which was that the ANC would drop down to 56 in Gauteng from 65, which would be a massive,
it looks like
almost 10% drop. So. Yeah, we don't know.
Interesting now, it's still early days. That's what we'd like to remind our viewers. It's very, very early days. We can't really start calling anything so far, especially when only about 15% of the vote have come in nationally. But I'm always going to come back to that new kid on the block. It's really made an impact on these elections, without a doubt.
EFF?
That's correct.
Yes. Also considering the fact that, they are new, they didn't have, as far as one could tell, a massive injection of cash, even though they managed to get around. They had cars, they seemed to manage to put on some fancy clothes. Their message for me, what counted in their favor was their message. Message is very coherent, not entirely logical, that workers would get these massive increases and but they know that there's a great deal of dissatisfaction out there. People who, even though they might know that the message is somewhat exaggerated, but they are looking for a spokesperson to articulate their anger and dissatisfaction. So it is in a way an emotive vote, in as much as it is a reflection of inequalities, because they ultimately are reflecting deep inequalities in our society, poverty, and the ANC hasn't managed to tap into that, to show sufficient sympathy towards those people. And these EFF chaps have decided that they will go for that constituency. They will not mix their message. Hence, they've managed to do that, seem to be doing somewhat fairly well. Yeah,
you look at I don't go into manifestos and what party strategies going into this. A lot of people, when the EFF came through, thought, just these young kids, disgruntled kids. But you look at their rank and file, they've somehow been able to tap into that so-called middle-class black vote, which is a very important vote, because that's where I think the ruling party had a stronghold in the past couple of years that kept it there, getting those two-third majorities.
See, the people also vote as a sign of protest. I've always felt that there was going to be a protest vote here, given what the ruling party has been doing. It has come under a lot of criticism, related to how the president has conducted himself, related to how government has done, how they have responded in a somewhat uncaring manner, and people are unhappy. And some of them feel that they don't have any influence on how government, or perhaps the ANC does these things. So they, in as much as some of them might still be committed to the ANC, but they want to convey some dissatisfaction. And how do you convey that dissatisfaction? Through tactical voting. You split your vote. Provincially, perhaps you might vote for the ANC, but nationally, you might vote for for Malema, because you want Malema perhaps to go to Parliament and tell the president what he would otherwise prefer to tell the president, but are unable to do so.
Yeah.
So there is that tactical voting, an expression of protest, dissatisfaction that they would want EFF to convey on their behalf.
Okay. Now, before we go to a break, let's take a quick look at maybe the provinces, just fast and quickly, then we go to a quick break. I'm not quite sure they'll put it up on the screens. Let's start in the Western Cape. I mean, fairly early in the morning, it seemed that the Western Cape, they were fairly happy as far as DA's voting was concerned. They've wrapped it up, so to speak. I mean, although they said it's still early days, we still can't call it, but it looks like the DA is going to walk away with it.
There was never any contest, really. The ANC never had a strong campaign. They had problems with some of their leaders. They had to deal with Pooh being thrown out at the airport, and so they had serious problems there. And the DA has done fairly well. Yes, it has some weaknesses, but the ANC, because of the weakness of its own campaign, was not able to capitalize upon that. So Western Cape, it's pretty much sealed for the DA.
Okay. Then probably the other one that we just came from, Silo Tai from the northwest for me. Touch and go as well, but it should go to the ANC. The
DA, the ANC is likely to drop there, especially because of all the governance issues. You have the Marikana, you've had protests there. It's a question of who among the opposition parties can capitalize on ANC drop. That's going to be the difference really in that province.
Okay. What we'll do, my director, I see Leanne waving me by. I think she wants to come and join us soon. We're going to go to a quick break. When we return, Leanne's going to fill us in on who she met on the floor, because I saw she was having way too much fun. Maybe we'll swap places with her. Dr. Mcebisi, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Mcebisi Ndletyana, one of our analysts right here, sticking around throughout the whole day, speaking to us about what's coming in terms of predictions. Where do we go? Where do we see these results going as far as 2014 elections in South Africa are concerned? Stay with us. We continue immediately after this.